there's no way the 49ers were one of the teams that tried to trade for J.J. McCarthy, right? What's up? Good morning. Welcome to Connor's Corner. That's Conor Wayland, staff writer for 49ers on SI. I'm Grant Cohn, publisher of 49ers on SI. The news this morning from NFL Network's Tom Pelissero is that the Vikings have been getting lots of trade calls from multiple teams about J.J. McCarthy, teams that aren't sure the Vikings are going to let him be the starter. But for now, they're rebuffing those calls and they're going with McCarthy as their starter, which really has nothing to do with the 49ers, except unless they were one of those teams that called. And of course, Tom Pelissero didn't say which teams called because that would cause an uproar in those respective markets. So I want to speculate about it. Connor, do you think John Lynch did his due diligence behind closed doors here?
Did he do his due diligence?
Due diligence.
You know, I'd like to think that John Lynch has enough of a brain to be like, well, we'd have to probably give up like a first and a second, maybe even a third, because they just drafted him, like you'd really have to go at it. But would I be shocked if they made the call? Probably not. I wouldn't be surprised, but I don't think it happened. But with the way this offseason's going, anything can happen nowadays. Who knows? Maybe they're thinking, Jaden McDaniels and Bo Nix, they were so good. Maybe J.J. McCarthy's the next guy. Maybe we could get him cheap deal for 4 years. He can be the new Brock. I get where you're coming from because the sound to it does kind of sound 49ers-esque. But I'm curious, what do you think? And you think they went for it? You think they're like, fuck it, send the farm? Oh.
Well, I think they could look at it this way. Look, do they like McCarthy? Probably. I mean, he won a national championship like Mac Jones, who they just signed. He was very accurate. He was coached by Harbaugh. He's coached by O'Connell. He's got pedigree. He's cheap. If they liked him last year, maybe they think, we could get him for cheaper now. He messed up his knee. It's like a car that gets driven off the lot and, has a fender bender immediately or worse. So maybe we could get him for a second round pick, especially if the Vikings kind of feel the way we felt when we had Trey Lance and we're like, man, we have this great team and he's not ready and we're not going to give this over to a rookie. Maybe that's how they feel. Maybe we should call him up and see, you're not serious about McCarthy, right? You're going to sign Rodgers, right? What about if we just give you the second? What if we give you a second and Brandon Ayuk?
Oh, goodness.
And it sounds like the answer is no for now because no one really wants Aaron Rodgers, and I respect that.
No. Incorrect answer. I do not respect that. Aaron Rodgers, for the man he is, for the clown antics that he provides, I agree with that. I feel like I need something that nobody listens to anymore, and everyone's always talking smack on Aaron Rodgers. We need to remind ourselves, 2018 to 2022 Aaron Rodgers might have been the best quarterback in the world. He was elite, and we're talking about 3 years ago. I get it, the Jets, it wasn't good, but it's the Jets. It's like when Caleb Williams plays bad on the Bears. It's well, it's the Bears. Yeah, you should expect that.
That's true.
I think he's got some fuel in the tank. The question is he going to keep going on long walks on the beach and be depressed?
That's my thing. He doesn't want to choose a team because it doesn't seem like he really wants to practice in the offseason. Yeah. And does his play on the field, which is overwhelmingly positive, outweigh his impact in the locker room, which I'm not in. I'm not in the locker room. But from afar, it looks like he's toxic.
I think that's fair. I mean, even players are talking smack. Did you see the Cam Hayward clip? You see that? That was a really funny clip. I was like, oh my goodness, Cam does not care. And I mean, I get it. Cam's a vet now, so he's kind of done with all the BS. And he's just sign or don't sign. I don't care. Literally just do it or don't, which I thought was hilarious.
So we'll never know if the Niners were interested in JJ. I think they probably were. Does it mean that they're trying to get rid of Brock? No. I mean, there's a world where they trade for JJ McCarthy and tell Brock, hey, you're still our guy. We just want to have a really good backup for you. We just want to have a really good backup. And that's essentially what Mac Jones is for a little bit cheaper,
Yeah, what's crazy to think about too? Mac Jones is a Pro Bowl quarterback. Isn't that insane?
Uh-huh.
That's just that's
been to one Pro Bowl, just like Brock.
Yeah, and he had a rushing touchdown that didn't count because he was
you watched that Pro Bowl?
Running. I did not watch it, but I remember seeing that clip and being like, that's so funny that he was just like, they called the play at like the 30 and he ran it 70 yards. He was like, I don't care. This is my
I,
chance.
I just think it's interesting. Like, let's say the Niners are really, well, we'll talk about what's up with Brock and his contract. But I mean, if they wanted JJ, if they're bringing in Mac, maybe they're more open to playing out the contract than we thought and like having competition at the position. So I was doing a mock draft yesterday for on SI, and I was up. And it seems like, when you read mock drafts, everyone has Shadur Sanders going really high. But when it comes time to actually do a mock draft, no publisher picked him. No one.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there at 11 and Shadur's there on the board. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't pick him. But if he falls to 11, would the Niners take him? I mean, he's not mobile, but Kyle doesn't care. I mean, he's a lot like Mac Jones.
I mean, I see your point. I just think that there is like 2 or 3 names in particular that I love them picking in the first round. And there's like one guy in particular. I don't know if you want me to dive into
it. Would be
it
so
now,
irresponsible. Yeah, don't say your name yet because we're gonna save that for later. But it would be so irresponsible if they took a quarterback. I just don't understand. Are the Niners in the market for a quarterback or not? Are they really saving all their money for Brock or not? Like, I don't know.
I feel like if they do draft a quarterback, they're kind of sealing the deal that he's going to want to leave, which is just like, I just don't like the idea of that. And I also don't think Shadur is honestly worth it. I think he's kind of tanking all of his draft stock right now.
Seems like it.
And I don't really get the point in that because he's just like, he keeps being like, any team, I'd make it better. And then it's just like kind of giving the bird to all the teams. And it's just like, dude, like, what are we doing here? Like, do you want to get that deal or do you not want to get that deal? I don't know. Cam Ward's certainly better too. I don't know if you agree with that, but Cam Ward, he looks like he's actually a real talent to me. Shadur, I question it sometimes.
Yeah, Cam Ward looks really good because he seems like maybe not a dual threat quarterback, but a very mobile, elusive quarterback, which is what you need if you're gonna have like a drop back passing game. Shadur looks like a guy who needs to go honestly to the Niners or a McVay Shanahan style offense so he can hand off a lot and do play action. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't like he needs that. He's not going to be making a lot of guys miss in the pocket. I keep coming back to the quarterback I like the most. So there's 2 ends of the spectrum. There's Kyle McCord, who to me is like the best of the statues in this draft. Can't move at all, but he's got a really nice deep ball. I like his arm a lot. He was really good at Syracuse and at Ohio State. And then there's the dual threat, Jalen Milroe, where it's like, man, as far as just runners at the quarterback position, I think he's up there with Fields, Lamar. I mean, I think he's faster and potentially a better, more dangerous runner than Hurts. And then as a passer, I wonder if he could get to where Hurts is right now. Because if he can, that's a starting quarterback. If he can't, okay, maybe he's just a backup, or maybe he's not even a quarterback at all. But he's intriguing to me.
I think I see your Jalen Milroe and Jalen Hurts. They do kind of give me similar vibes. It's like sleeper picks in the college draft. People are like, oh, can we really get something out of them?
Both went to Alabama.
Yeah, exactly.
And the thing about Milroe, he actually played well in 2023 when Saban was his coach. Then they brought in a new coach, brought in a new offensive coordinator. It was all bad. The receivers were different. That offensive coordinator's been fired and replaced. I'm a Milroe stan. I'm just saying.
Yeah, big Milroe stan.
I think a smart team should take him on day 2 if they can.
So if you had an opportunity to go between Shadur Sanders and Milroe, who would you prefer?
Milroe, because to me, where the league is going is dual threat quarterbacks, and Shadur is a really good passer, but to me, that's like one dimensional. And I want a 2-dimensional quarterback. Milroe has the potential to be that. You know what I mean? I'm like thinking about like in basketball, Shadur's like a really good player with no 3. And I like Jimmy Butler, hell of a player, but you gotta want the guy who you want Steph, who shoots the 3 and can score inside.
Okay, whoa. Let's not.
Milroe is the Steph Curry of this draft, is what I'm saying.
That should
on the
be
record.
the headline. That's
okay. Let's move past that before I get grilled. Should the 49ers, should Brock Purdy just play out his contract? I mean, he could sign like a glorified Sam Darnold deal right now, or he could come back and have a great year and get the Dak Prescott deal. Like, do you think he should play out his contract? Do you think the 49ers should make him play out his contract?
I mean, I feel like I always hear people saying that the ball's in the 49ers court, and every time I do, I completely like don't get it because in this era that we're in now, in the player empowerment era, he can just decide, you know what? I'm not playing. And if he doesn't play, the Niners are screwed. Like there's nothing else. Like they can't just put in Mac and suddenly win games. Maybe that's a crazy take.
Let's stay
Please,
there.
your
Let's
opinion.
discuss it. If Brock holds out, are the 49ers screwed? I can see why you say that. Counterpoint, they were 6-9 with him last year. They weren't great with him last year. Like, could they go 6-9 with Mac Jones? Maybe.
I mean, maybe they could.
Maybe.
I think the big issue is you're completely alienating the locker room in particular, too. And like, I think that if everyone's like, dude,
That's
are
fair.
you not going to pay Brock? I think maybe the team chem gets off, and that's so important to me.
Okay, let's stay there for a second. That's a great point. If you don't pay him, you throw off the team chemistry and you think that they think that you're disrespecting Brock, who's one of them. What if it's spun the other way? Like, hey, they made an offer that was more than fair to Brock. They were going to pay him more than $40 million a year. They were going to make him the highest paid player on the team, and he thinks he wants more. Is it possible the locker room for the first time looks at Brock and is like, dude, why are you being so greedy? I thought you weren't going to be like Brandon Ayuk. I'm just arguing here. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I get that point. I think the thing is though is that like the guys in the locker room, like Kittle has openly said in plenty of quotes that like when contracts are happening, they keep that to themselves and they're like, okay, it's business time and stuff like that. Obviously, we're not there, so maybe they do like in the background be like, look at this guy. Like, are you kidding me? He's trying to get 60. Like, God damn. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they were doing that because it is a pretty insane amount of money. But like this guy just said in the chat, and this is exactly what I think will happen if it doesn't happen. Diva Brock will come out. Like Diva Brock, I think, is a thing that can happen. And he's going to be like, listen, man, I've been the lowest paid quarterback for like all of my career in the NFL. And I'm not the lowest paid quarterback at all. I should not be. And I can't blame him for saying that. And I'm not even high on Brock. I don't even love Brock that much, but I get it.
I just can't think of that many quarterbacks who like really got the bag, the 5-year, $50+ million per year deal coming off a season like Brock had. Now, if he had been eligible for the extension in 2023, yeah, I could see. I mean, Jordan Love got the extension off of basically a good 10-game stretch. So Purdy, this is just bad timing because all of a sudden now he's eligible for it, and you went 6-9 and got hurt twice, and you threw a bunch of picks in the second half. Like you threw more picks in the second half than you threw touchdown passes.
Oh,
so
bad.
How do you ask for that money now? It seems like you put yourself in the Sam Darnold position now, where like you kind of look like a one-year wonder. You don't have a lot of leverage, and you could sort of take whatever team-friendly slap in the face deal they offer you, or you could do what Lamar did and come back and play out the final year of your rookie deal and prove your worth. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, and I hope he does, because to me, if he takes that deal that the Niners give him, that 3-year deal, I'm assuming that's what it is, glorified Darnold deal. It's telling me that he thinks that he knows he's not top 10 quarterback. And he's just happy to be in a position to make this kind of money where he never really thought he would as the Mr. Irrelevant. The way he's carried himself forever is that he thinks he's the truth. I want him to act like it.
That's fair. Do you really think the Niners would offer him a 3-year deal though? I feel like they're guaranteed to give him the like max amount of time they can, like 5 to 6 years.
It could be a 9-year deal, but I don't think there's going to be any guaranteed money after year 2. And I think they're going to be able to get out of it after a couple of years. The Darnold deal, it's a 3-year deal, but there's no guaranteed money after year 1. I mean, I'm not saying he's not a franchise quarterback, Brock, but I think there's enough of a question after this last year to wonder, like, is he going to bounce back and be the 2023 Purdy essentially for the rest of his career? And this was just a blip, or is this what it's going to look like when he's making a lot of money and the team around him isn't as great? I don't know.
Yeah, is this season going to be the worst team he's ever had? I think it is going to be. It
could be.
And that's
are we expecting a great year from him, given that? I mean, I don't know that he elevates teams the way like the top 7-8 quarterbacks do.
Yeah, I can see your point there, but at the same time, even when I'm not that high on him, like he is pretty damn good. I have to give him some props. Like he can
So keep him.
Yeah.
So keep him. And if he comes back this year and balls out and you have to pay him more next year, you could kick yourself because you'd be like, man, we could have had him way cheaper last year and we blew it. Or you could say that's the price of getting evidence and confirmation and making sure you make the right decision.
So, but what if this is the mentality they come with, and then come week 1 of training camp, Brock's holding out?
Let's talk about that.
What happens then?
Now You potentially save yourself a lot of money. Okay, it looks like it's looking like it may not be an extension, or it'll happen at the end of the. I mean, you're not going to win the Super Bowl anyway this year. Let's talk about that. It's not like, oh damn, we can't win the Super Bowl because Brock. Even if he's there from day one, this team has like $85 million in dead cap. They're just trying to make the playoffs and keep it respectable until 2026. So I'll say that. The other thing is that I think they could do pretty well with Mac Jones. Like if Mac Jones were the quarterback in 2023, I think they could have lost the Super Bowl. If Sam Darnold were the quarterback in 2023, I think they could have lost the Super Bowl. This is a team that lost the Super Bowl with Jimmy, man.
Yeah, they did lose with Jimmy. They
lost with Jimmy, and I think Mac's better than Jimmy. I think Darnold's better than Jimmy. I think Brock's better than Jimmy. I mean, this is a team that's very much about the defense and the run game and the play action. And even with Brock's, all of his mobility, which is great, when this team is clicking, they don't need him to be mobile. They need him to give the freaking ball to Christian or fake giving the ball to Christian and turn around and throw the ball to the wide open receiver 10 yards over the middle most of the time. And a lot of Jimmy could do that, dude. I think Matt can do that. And the fact that he could do it for like $3.5 million a year is intriguing. Although, even though he's cheap, it's not like the Niners are going to spend that money on the rest of their freaking team this year. So his cheapness doesn't really matter. But anyway, I still think Matt could do it. I think he could fit this off. Matt Ryan fit this freaking system. I think Mac Jones and his heavy feet could do it. I think I'm trying to talk myself into it. I don't stop talking.
You're doing that. I think you're really trying to get yourself into it. I mean, you just compared Matt Ryan, a future Hall of Fame
when he may have more in common with like Josh Rosen. It could be bad.
I mean, not even that. It's just like you mentioned a Hall of Fame guy who's like totally past his prime, and then you mentioned
I was really working it there. I was trying to sell it.
I get it. You
laid it on thick.
Yeah. You laid it on thick. You got to do that sometimes, but I just don't. I don't see it.
Mac Jones and Milroe, Alabama quarterbacks, man. I'm all about them.
Honestly, I don't even see the difference between the two. I think
they're pretty much the same guy.
They both are really fast. I mean, Mac, like I said, he showed it in the Pro Bowl. Like, I don't know, pretty identical.
Yeah, that's true. It's true. I think Mac Jones is the next dual threat quarterback. I'd like to see Mac Jones and Brock Purdy at least, practicing the zone read this offseason. Why not? When you have wheels like that.
I mean, you might as well. Honestly, let's get some designated quarterback runs. Like, let me
ask you a question about Brock. What tier of quarterback would you put him in? Like, I'm not telling you to rank him, although I do have a ranking. If you have a ranking, I think I have a ranking. But like, who are the quarterbacks that would you say are essentially right there with him?
So he's kind of got one of those weird tiers to me where he's not like an elite, like a Lamar, a Josh Allen, a Joe Burrow. Like he's definitely not that, but I would probably say he's in the category below that. I'm trying to think of a few names that would be similar. A part of me wants to say Geno, but
I would agree.
Yeah,
I would agree with that.
I disagree with it. Maybe his like pure just football IQ and his ability maybe is like a little better than Geno's, but Geno kind of killed him a little bit last year. Like Jordan Love, that's another one that could be comparable. But it's kind of like this second tier of quarterbacks, which I get. Yeah, well, Tua, I don't even know. Tua
whooped his ass in Miami a few months ago. I was there for that. I know they don't play each other, but I would say Kyler. Maybe I'm just a hater. I would say Kyler. I would say Darnold, frankly.
I think Darnold might be a reach, but like based on how he performed last year, I see where you're putting him. It's just like, especially with that like contract being no guaranteed money, I feel like it shows that teams aren't like
would the Vikings have been better with Purdy last year? Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. It's a fair question.
And people be like, well, Purdy's done so much in the playoffs. Like, yeah, but Jimmy did the same stuff in the playoffs. Now, Purdy's numbers were better, sure, but their records the same. I mean, they went to the same places. They lost to the same games, to the same teams in the same way. So I don't know how much stock I put into Purdy's playoff resume. I don't know.
Is there another question I have now is like, since there's all these quarterbacks that we're naming, has there been a time in the league where there were like this many really talented quarterbacks? Because I feel like there's so many guys nowadays that like are really good. And I know, for example, you're not a big fan of Baker Mayfield, but like Baker.
Connor, how old are you?
Okay. All right. I'm 23. I'm 23.
Is there a time? How about like 15 years ago, man, when like Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Aaron Rodgers, young Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady.
Mm-hmm.
When you had like Brett Favre hanging around at the end,
So I love this idea, but like I said, you're naming like this is like 5 or 6 guys. I can name like 13 or 14 quarterbacks in the league right now that I would consider are like top talents, and any team would want them.
True. And I think what's cool about the difference, like back the era I was talking about, Manning, Breeze, and Brady in particular would beat you without moving, which was very cool to see. It was incredible. Not very many people could do it. There's almost no one that even tries to play like that anymore. Now you have scramblers at minimum, and some guys who are straight up running backs like Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts. I like where the league is going. I grew up on Steve Young though, so I like mobile quarterbacks.
I do too. I love a mobile quarterback, but I remember seeing Tom Brady talk about this last season, in particular, about like how quarterbacks nowadays, they're unwilling to kind of do the nitty gritty that like him, Peyton, and Drew did, of like really telling their receivers like, I need you this way, and not doing like something I remember seeing never really in the past, like like hospital passes. Nowadays, hospital passes are all the time. Like they're getting their receivers murdered on some of these passes.
Right.
And back in the old days, Tom's like, hell no, I don't want my guy to be dead. Like, I'm not throwing that ball. Nowadays, they're like, sure, give it to him, and then boom, just steel on steel, car on car, murder. Like, just not okay.
It's true. Ronnie Lott, that's what he did. All right, let me ask you this. No one really knows what to make of this Niners offseason because there doesn't seem to be a coherent theme. And they sort of like contradict themselves. They cut a guy, they bring him back. They let a guy go. They try to bring him back. They can't bring him back. I'm talking about Greenlaw and you checked before that. So what is this all about? What do you make of this?
This has been, I think, the most shocking offseason for me, like watching the Niners in a really long time. I wrote an article earlier in the year on 49ers on SI. Hey, you should check me out.
Check it out.
I wrote an article earlier this year talking about Ward, Greenlaw, and Hufanga, and how contractually they wouldn't be able to afford all three, so who would be the one to go? And obviously it was Ward needs to go because he was ready to leave anyway, but it was obviously stated in there, you got to keep Greenlaw. You have to. Hufanga, you should, but if you don't, it's okay. How do you let Greenlaw go? 3-year, $11 million a year, not $11 million guaranteed.
And the best thing about it is like, they tried to bring him back. It's like, oh, that's what the price is. Okay, we can afford that. And Greenlaw, it seems like what he essentially said was, no, you offended me. And not just now, but like pretty much the whole time I was on the team, you never promoted me. You always wanted me to play second fiddle to Fred. And now you tell me you value me? Like, no, the Broncos value me. I'm going over here.
And Hufanga's joining him too. Like they're going to be a top team now. Like they're really good.
They're really good.
I think the thing that
remember when Debo said they were a couple of pieces away. He was right. That's not the piece they wanted.
Yeah, they were a couple pieces away. Now they're a lot of pieces away. They got some space, and now linebacker's going to be a need at the draft too, which is just because I don't really trust their backups. Like they weren't playing the best last year. I don't.
Yeah, like D Winters is promising, I guess. He makes some nice hits. He runs and hits pretty well, but he was on the field when they were getting gashed by Josh Jacobs and James Cook and everyone.
Yeah, he couldn't stop the run. I think the thing that I find really interesting about this offseason in particular is the whole, okay, I'm going to paint a little scene for you, right? Kyle Juszczyk, he gets cut. George Kittle, Christian McCaffrey, they head into that front office. They say, this is upsetting us. We need him on this team.
We're distressed.
They realize, oh, we messed up. Let's re-sign him. What about Fred Warner last season saying, I need Dre Greenlaw? What about Nick Bosa being like, we got a really good defense, and then you let 3 big free agents walk? I get it. They were trying to make Kittle and CMC happy. What about Fred and Nick? Is this going to separate them a little bit? Is this going to make them a little bit, upset with the team? If I were them, I'd be a little mad that you let, especially Fred, you let my guy leave, my number 2, the best like combo of linebackers in the league. You let him just walk with a like very small deal too.
That's a great point. It's a great point. It's a great point. I can't imagine that Fred Warner's happy about this. I just looked at Fred Warner's contract. It's through 2026. So there's nothing he can really do about it. But Kittle's contract is up after this season, and he wants an extension. And if he doesn't get one, he could hold out this offseason. I mean, that's how it works around these parts. So it seems like maybe the Niners are trying to keep George happy, because who knows if they'll actually give him that extension. I don't know. Or who knows if he'll even want the extension if he feels like the team is going in a direction he doesn't want to go in his early to mid 30s.
I think he's made it really clear that he's like the type that wants to be there his whole career, you know. But maybe
I don't think he wants to take too much of a step back, though. I don't think he wants to do a full rebuild.
Yeah, but I think at the end of the day, I think he's less about titles now and kind of more about his legacy and like the happiness of having the resume that he has. If they do for some reason, yeah, exactly. Like if they do trade him, that's like the Luka Doncic trade to me. Like that's like crazy because he's been the guy, I feel like, for so long. And even right now when he was super old, he was one of the I mean, honestly, I think he was the best pass catcher last year. He was amazing.
He was. And if the difference though is that Luka's 25 and this dude's going to be 32, and sometimes you want to get rid of a guy a year too soon rather than a year too late. Although I don't know, he could be good for a while, a few more years.
I totally get that and the age thing, and it's like totally a crazy comparison. But to me, like when I think of a player like Luka who is so affiliated with a city on this team, it's George Kittle. George Kittle's the most.
He's really been the face of the team more than Kyle, more than any quarterback.
Yes, and he should be. Like he's a great character. Like his mic'd up are always hilarious. He's a great guy. He always is playing with his heart and like goes 110% every time, no breaks. But I don't know. Yeah. By the way, yeah, the Mavs are dummies. Thank you for saying that. Well, they're absolute idiots for that. That was the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. That was just, what are we doing here?
So it's like it's trying to get younger. It's trying to get more cost effective while also trying not to alienate George Kittle. Is that the balance there?
Maybe that is. You know, you got
the balance they're doing here.
You know,
like we want to get younger, but we don't want to completely alienate this old core of players that's been here forever.
Yeah. It seems like they're going half rebuild mode, which to me, every time I see a half rebuild, I just think it's a bad idea. Like I feel like in this league, you either need to be at the bottom or you need to be at the top to succeed. Like you need to be at the bottom so you get a good pick and then you can draft well and then boom, you'll be at the top. We saw it with like the Chiefs, you know, before they had Mahomes, they were okay with Alex Smith. They were doing really well. But then when they got Mahomes, it was like, boom, they're great. The Bears, they're doing that now. They were terrible. Now they have a great O-line. They've got a quarterback. They got weapons. Like, I just think that's the way it goes.
It just seems like they're giving this while they're rebuilding the rest of their roster with all these draft picks the next couple of years. They're going to give this older core 2 more years. And the older core is Trent, Bosa, Fred, Kittle, Juszczyk, McCaffrey. I might be missing someone. That's essentially the older core.
Yeah, that's pretty much.
You're going to get 2 more years. They're all kind of signed for 2 more years, except for Kittle, who signed for 1 more. But it's like this year's a throwaway year. Yeah. I mean, no one expects you to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't even think you do. You just aren't making your team better. You're taking on all these penalties. It's like you're clearly positioning yourself for 2026. So this core is going to be so freaking old in 2026. McCaffrey, Trent, like Bosa and Warner and Kittle could still all be really good by then, but McCaffrey and Trent in particular might not be on the freaking team at that point. So I just don't understand what the point of like holding on to this core for 2026 is. Like, I don't know. Seems strange.
Do you think it's a statement on Kyle being on a hot seat and being like, well, this is my only chance right now to like really perform, is keeping all these
It's true.
guys?
It's like if I have to make the playoffs and like do what McVay did the last couple of years, like go 10-7 with a young team and do something in the playoffs, then or I'm fired, then maybe I'm not just going to completely commit to a full-blown rebuild, because then I'm just restocking the cupboard for my eventual successor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you literally just don't have time for a full rebuild if you really are on the hot seat. Like you don't have the time.
Right. So you let the owners like slash the budget here and there, but you like hold firm on certain things. What I just think is so like weak about the Juszczyk thing is like, they're like, hey, Kyle, we don't think you're worth $4 million a year. So we're going to give you a pay cut, or we can cut you and you can see what you're really worth. And Juszczyk's like, cut me. And then he goes to Pittsburgh or whatever and like gets the offer. And then I was like, all right, bet you proved it. You're right. All right, we'll give you that contract. It's like, what? You don't know what are you doing, man? And just to do that, it cost you more than $3 million in dead cap space that you apparently don't freaking care about this year because you're not spending money anyway, and you're just gonna sneak into the playoffs at best. Such a strange move. Like,
it's weird. And you brought up something in particular that I did really want to make sure I got to today, because this is something that I'm very passionate about. Mm-hmm. It is ownerships in sports that refuse to spend money. I got a little something right here for you. This is this is last dive bar. I'd rather be at the Oakland Coliseum. You know what the Niners are doing right now? They're pulling an Oakland A's. That's what they're doing. They're saying, you know what? We had talent. We don't need the talent. Let's just let them go. Let's not spend any money. That is what is happening right now. You know what the funniest thing about that is the A's are actually spending money now and the Niners aren't. What world do we live in where the Oakland Athletics are sending out contracts and the Niners are not and letting people walk? How does that make sense? What world am I living in right now?
And we assume, like, because the Niners spent the last 8 years, that they will again in the future. But we have no idea what the new plan is with this organization. They've always been much more about making money than winning championships. They're much better. They're great at making money. They don't know what it takes to win a championship. And maybe they're just leaning into what they do well. Maybe that's what we're learning this offseason.
You know what's even funnier now that I'm looking at it too real quick is Robert Saleh's really coming into just a cluster of hell. He's coming into something that he was not ready for.
You thought you were going to use us as a springboard to get back into the league as an NFL head coach?
No.
Good luck. Hey, man, well, if you get a top 5 defense out of this, then you'll definitely be a head coach next year for sure. Maybe that's how Saleh's looking at it. Hey, man, all I got to do, the expectations are way the hell down here. Joseph Faria says, you broke my heart and I let you succeed because to a player, that's an organ that you don't really need. Sugar-free. I'm trying to tell you, a man in Brother Lynch level deadly sin rap. That's true. He says some of the most unforgivable things. Mentally, I've been in those trenches. I don't know how you get there. Yeah, it's true. It's only certain people understand Sugar-Free and his utility to society and really therapy in general. All day, every day, Kim says JJ would rejuvenate this fan base big time. Rejuvenation? I feel like there needs to be I feel like there's a little staleness going on with Niner fans right now.
I think so. I mean, can you blame them? Like, this has been like one of the biggest fall from graces I've ever seen. Like, everyone's getting cut, everyone's leaving. Like, it's
but if you had an exciting franchise quarterback, it wouldn't matter. If Joe Burrow were the quarterback of the 49ers, there would be such fan fervor. Like, thank you very much, Dre Greenlaw and Talanoa Hufanga. We don't care. We have Joe freaking Burrow, but the Niners have Brock freaking Purdy, and everyone kind of knows he probably shouldn't get this much money. And when he gets it, no one's really going to like it. It's a weird place to be in. It's like, yeah, he should get it, but you don't really feel that. You're not going to celebrate when it happens. In fact, you're going to hate it.
Yeah.
You're going to hate it.
Well, big
if
time.
It's too much.
But you know what the thing is? They could, in this draft, they could get a premier wide receiver that's better than anyone I've seen in a bit.
Oh, we might have to talk about that. Before we get to there, what I want to ask you is, before we start naming names of people we like, let's start talking about like ground rules for this draft. What's at stake? How important is this particular draft compared to other drafts this regime has had? And what type of risks can they take? Can they draft a guy with character issues, coming off of surgery, someone who shouldn't be there at 11, who might fall? Or do they have to like be as freaking safe as possible? What do you think?
I think that this is the most important draft they've had in a couple years. This is going to be a huge one, especially since they've lost all this talent. They need to draft a lot of really big talent. And they need to get some names that are going to perform immediately. Like, they need to get some D tackles that are going to be amazing. They need that. They have no depth there right now. They need a new linebacker to cover Dre Greenlaw's spot, unless they really think Winters is going to be the guy. They probably need a new corner. They don't really have too many corners other than Demo. And it's just, there's so many holes in this team right now that they really need to fill. And if they can't, it feels like it's inevitable that they fail in the playoffs or just flat out don't make it.
Yeah. I think the future of the regime depends on this draft. Like, I think the organization is looking at the Rams. I think they were trying to find a reason not to fire John and Kyle, because with the Rams, I mean, they had a down season after they won the Super Bowl. No one's upset about that. But having a down season after you lose another Super Bowl is very painful. And I think the owners were like, okay, let's not be hasty here. Let's not be emotional. We're pissed. And we hate Kyle. No, I don't know if they said that. But we're pissed. But look at the Rams. Look at the Rams, right? They had that down year, and they had these 2 great drafts in a row, and they're back. So let's give Kyle and John the opportunity to do what the Rams did, because they've been right there neck and neck with the Rams kind of the last 8 years. So this is their chance, man. You got no D-line right now. The Rams D-line is full of players they drafted the last 2 drafts. The Niners are obviously going to try to replicate that. If they can, great. If not, I don't know. We'll see if they can. I mean, this is the regime that drafted Kinlaw and Solomon Thomas. I have my doubts.
By the way, Kinlaw getting that big money this offseason.
Congrats, Javon.
That was crazy to me too.
That was crazy. Yeah.
I did not expect him to get the bag. But they're this draft, going back to that, it's huge, man. And the big news for them, the like big deal, they have 11 picks. 11 picks. And a lot of that's from that comp pick system, which, to be completely frank, I do not really understand that very well. But they have a lot of picks. And also, oddly, nothing in the 6th round. I thought that was interesting. They have like 3 7s, 3 5ths, nothing in the 6th. I don't know. That looked weird to me, but they have a lot of opportunity, man. They gotta get some hits here, though. And I think there's a few guys in particular when we get to the names that are some older guys that are going to be coming in as like 24, 25, that they could maybe be a really good option just because they kind of have some talent there and they're already grown and a little bit mature, that it could work. But they need to hit. They need to hit so bad.
Right. And so that's the final point I want to make before we move on to the names, because I think the reason the Niners are in this spot where this draft is so important is because they've taken players in round 1 who were absolute busts, like not just not worthy of the pick, but just not players, guys who gave them almost nothing. And that's because they've taken risks. Like Kinlaw had a knee issue. They knew it. And they're not the organization that really does a good job rehabilitating players. They've never been that organization. They get high marks from players about everything except training room and trainers every year. It's just not what they invest in. So that was a mistake. You drafted Reuben Foster in round 1, even though he got sent home from the combine.
Yeah.
Clear character issue. You drafted him anyway. So you can't do that, man. No dudes with a bad knee or a bad foot or who, they had surgery, but they're doing good or they're character concern. None of that. None of that. You're drafting the next DeForest Buckner, someone that buttoned up and professional.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like ideally every team would want to do that, but I feel like sometimes there's some guys that are just so talented. I don't really know if there's anyone like that this year because I don't know too much about this draft class.
Well, there's that offensive tackle from Ohio State, Josh Simmons. He's really good, but he tore his patella tendon. Like, absolutely not. No, take him off your draft board. Another team can try that.
They're not going to pick a tackle anyway. I feel like their tackles are going to secure a
guard. Like James Pierce Jr., pass rusher from Tennessee. It's been rumors that there's character concerns with him. I don't know what they are. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. Niners would know. And if they're real, then no, you can't go. You can't be the pick. Sorry.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite like story from the draft of like a player's like character coming into question with something? Like, is there any moments like that you have in your brain that you're like, oh, that was a good one? Because I got one.
Well, I mean, I was at the Mike Green press conference when he was getting asked about his incidents, multiple, and it was strange to hear him answer the question. I mean, he's very rehearsed. He did it professionally, and I don't have an opinion on whether or not he did it or not. I mean, he didn't get anyway. That was awkward.
See that moment? Yeah. It reminds me of this. I think it's a Michigan baseball player. I don't know if you saw this at all, but this Michigan baseball player, he got hit a triple, and his celebration was sniffing the like foul line, and he immediately had to do a post on like Twitter, being like, "I'm so sorry. This doesn't reflect my character." It was the most like obviously like PR thing ever. That kind of reminds me of that. My favorite
baseball has gotten so weird. I would never like you. What? Why would you do that? Just put your head down and run the bases and get in the freaking dugout. What are you doing?
No.
But now it's like you have to celebrate, do something outlandish. Otherwise, it's like I don't understand baseball anymore.
Well, no, that's like a call. There's like a soccer player, former like Liverpool player, that he did that celebration. So it's like years and years and years ago. So to me, it's kind of a callback at that. The kid's like my age, so he probably didn't even know that happened. But
interesting.
The best story though is Laramie Tunsil. That's the best one, and I don't even need to explain the details. If you
why did he just get traded? Is because of that?
Hell no, because that was years ago. No way. But him getting traded, that was weird too.
Just when I thought Adam Peters couldn't make a worse move with the signing of Kinlaw, he goes and trades for Laramie Tunsil and completely redeems himself. Crazy. Justin says Tyler Booker and Jalen Walker feel like the safest picks to me at 11 if they can't get Campbell or Membu. Okay, Justin. Let's talk about Tyler Booker, Jalen Walker, and who the Niners should pick at 11. I mean, they have anyone they draft conceivably could fill a need, but some needs are more pressing than others. I don't know. How would you approach this? Who you
Well,
like?
so me, the way I like to view the first round pick is you have to naturally you want to account for what are your needs. You got to be like, okay, well, we need this, this, and this. But at the end of the day, the first round, it's really about the talent that's on there. To me, there's three guys that they should either go for with that pick, and it's just kind of depending on where they fall, because a few of these guys are kind of set to go higher. I think the obvious one that people are talking about is Mason Graham. I feel like that one's been talked about a lot. If he slips, I feel like the Niners should definitely go for him. He's the guy. But there's one name that people here are going to hate. They're not going to like it at all. There's a little wide receiver, goes by the name T-Mac from University of Arizona.
A little wide receiver.
He's not little at all. He's my height. He's 6'5", and he runs way better than I could ever run. I don't know what it is about this guy. I don't know if you've watched film on him, Grant.
I have.
But he, for 6'5" guy, people are thinking, oh, he's going to be like a DK Metcalf. He's going to body players. He's going to move them out of the way. That's not his game at all. He is 6'5", but has the smoothness in his route running and the just IQ of some of these guys that perform amazing in the NFL. Guys like, to me, Justin Jefferson, Puka Nacua, are the fastest? No. But they are silky smooth, and they can get open. They can break a tackle in open field. That is what I see in this kid. And I think if the Niners get him, it kind of solves all wide receiver problems for the future. And he's so good that I think he has to be the pick if he's there. If he's there, I'm salivating at the mouth, and I'm thinking we're set. We will have a pass catcher that has an amazing catch radius, can do everything on the field. I don't know what not to like about him. He's amazing.
I like him a lot too. He's really good.
See?
You know who I would compare him to? He's so good. I can't. He's not who I would pick, but if they took him, I couldn't knock it. Like, because he's so good. He's T. Higgins to me. He's T. Higgins. And T. Higgins is a great player. He just gets overshadowed by Jamar, but that team doesn't do anything without T. Higgins. T. Higgins is a great player. So, yeah, I could see that.
If they got him,
I'm not sure
then
he'll be
they
there at 11, though.
You really think he's going to go higher? He's projected to go second day. He's projected to go second round in some.
I feel like the Panthers should take him at 8. The freaking the Patriots could take him at 4. Hey, but here's the thing though, like if you take a wide receiver for the second year in a row and you don't address the offensive line and you pay Brock Purdy, like he's still gonna get smacked. He's still gonna get hurt. He could have everyone open downfield, but he can't hit him when he's on his back. To me, if you're not gonna spending hella money on your quarterback is like buying the most expensive car. You could do it. You could have a Ferrari if you want to have a Ferrari, but if you don't have a garage for the Ferrari, what's the point?
It's just going to
if you don't have an offensive line, what's the point of spending $55 million a year on a quarterback when he's just going to get hurt? If that's what you want to do and have no offensive line but all the weapons, then just get 3 quarterbacks who make no money and just say when one guy gets hurt, oh, well, we'll just go with the next. Because that's been your kind of formula in the past. It worked in 2022. That's what Mac is here for. He's replaceable. Yeah.
You need those replaceable guys. I do really. I'm honestly at the point now though where I pray they draft McMillan. If they get McMillan, I'm gonna.
Don't tell me what you're gonna do. I don't want to know.
I'm gonna be so happy. That's all. I'm gonna be so happy. That's it. He
would be a great replacement for Ayuk. He'd be maybe a better player than Ayuk. He could play the X position.
That's the thing that I love about it too, is that when they've been talking about trading Ayuk, they can trade Ayuk now because they have that guy. Like they can trade him and get a talent that can actually like really contribute. Because we don't know what Ayuk's going to be like right now. He just came off an injury. Like he could be anything. We don't really know, but I mean, we kind of know. I don't think
he's going to be on the team though, because he's due a $22.5 million option bonus on April 1st, and I just can't see the Niners giving him that money. I don't think they want to. And then if they give it to him and then trade him, after giving him $22 million, that's a lot of money for a team that's penny pinching this year. 22 and half.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of score.
I was just about to say
they could take Ted, but I feel like they're. I mean, it's Kyle Shanahan. It's his team. He could take Ted if he loves him. But I just feel like they've kind of positioned themselves to take defense in round 1. I mean, they've gutted their freaking defensive line, and they wanted Greenlaw back. Let's linger there for a second. They wanted Greenlaw back. They messed around. They thought they could sort of let the market define himself and that they could come in at the last minute and sort of like lean on loyalty and relationships when they had ruined all that, and they lost him when they thought they'd get him. Is it possible they go linebacker in round 1? Jihad Campbell from Alabama, Jalen Walker from Georgia.
I don't know necessarily. So I have a few linebackers that I was looking at that I like their talent. I really, in particular, I like their coverage. And that's something I feel like is really important for our linebacking core is being able to cover the ball. This kid Jay Higgins from Iowa, his tape was kind of looking really good to me. He's really, really good in coverage. He can also be gritty and like a true linebacker and get dirty too, which I really love. He can be like a later round choice. They've got like so many late round picks they can get him. I also really like Chris Paul Jr. I don't like the OG Chris Paul. I actually don't like him at all. But Chris Paul Jr. from Ole Miss, I like him a lot. He's super athletic. He has, I think his tackle miss rate was like 5%. Like he's barely misses tackles. He can finish a play. He's kind of small, but in the NFL, you get him big. He's a weapon, you know?
This is why I'm not inclined to take a linebacker at 11. Like, that's where the Niners got Patrick Willis at 11. If you're telling me this guy is going to be one of the greatest linebackers of all time, by all means. But the Niners have had way too much success finding excellent linebackers later in the draft. Round 3, round 5. They've done it. I mean, a lot of teams have done it. So I wouldn't necessarily, I mean, maybe they will in this one, but they're going to take a linebacker from Alabama after missing on Reuben Foster. That takes guts.
Yeah,
I'm not saying they're the same player, but it takes guts. It's a big miss to go back to that well.
Swing. That's why I just don't think they're gonna do that in the first round. Like, and there's like a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys I think that can go later that can really contribute for them as long as they are willing to wait and like get them when they can. And they got to be smart with their picks. There's like a lot of other names too. I don't know if you were paying attention to D tackles, but there's like this old guy that I was talking about, Darius Alexander from Toledo, that I was really liking too. He's like 25, but he can shed blocks really well. He's got good swimming clubs, which I know is like the basic moves for a defensive tackle, but he looks really good in them and he's big too. And then also this kid, Deion Walker from Kentucky. That's the one I really want. He would go late. He's huge, powerful. He has some insane strong hands. He just shoves people down. And I don't know how it would translate to the NFL with big grown men, but he looks like he could be a really big weapon.
Defensive tackle definitely is the position that everyone's looking at because they cut Hargrave and Collins, and they don't really have any defensive tackles who should be starting for this team or any team really in the NFL. So they need 2. You figure one's going to be the first round pick, but this is the team that drafted Javon Kinlaw. This is the team that drafted Solomon Thomas. I think they're probably scared of potentially reaching for another defensive tackle because they need one, because that's burned them twice. So I could see them saying, you know what, it's a deep class of defensive tackles. We could take a guy in round 2, we could take a guy in round 3, and they both could play right away. Maybe they're not 3-down players right away, but they could start and play on first and second or whatever. So yeah, I'm not sure that they necessarily go defensive tackle in round 1 either. They could go D-end, considering they freaking cut Leonard Floyd so they could sign Joey Bosa and then didn't sign Joey Bosa or Leonard Floyd. I mean, that seems like another miscalculation, kind of like the Greenlaw one. You thought you were going to have one or the other. You have neither. So they could go D-line here, D-end.
I hope they don't, though, because I really do think that the bigger needs is the D tackle, the linebacker, the corner. And like I said, too, like I'm so high on this kid McMillan. If he's there, I think you take him and you'd be like, all right, we'll get D tackles later. Like, let's just do it later.
Is it possible they go DB in round 1? We don't think about it very much. They lost Trevarius Ward and they lost Talanoa Hufanga, and they didn't replace either of them. Renardo Green's good, but we don't know if he'll ever be Trevarius Ward good, like $20 million a year good. And Jason Pinnock, we'll see. I mean, he's never been an all-pro. So what about DB? These are players who play 1,000%. I mean, 100% of the snaps.
Yeah, I have one name in particular. I'm curious what your name is if you've got one. Would you go first round with it?
I'm not sure if I would, but I think that Robert Saleh might. I think the Niners might. Now, the Niners haven't drafted a corner in round 1 since I was a kid. They did draft Eric Reed in round 1 about 10 years ago, but Saleh drafted Sauce Gardner in round 1. I think he's got a lot of power in who they take on defense and influence.
So do you think they go, I forget the Texas guy's name, but I feel like
Jahdae Barron?
Yeah, I think it would be.
I think they would consider it, yes. And I think they would consider Will Johnson as well.
I think Will Johnson would be the guy. I think he would be the one. Just because the Texas kid, he's good and all, but he's just like, when I look at him, I just see like a really versatile player that can play everywhere, and I don't think that's the Niners need. I think they need an X, and I think Will Johnson is that X.
That I think they also would consider Nick Emanwari, the safety from South Carolina, who's 6'3", 220 and ran a 4.38 and a 43-inch vert. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Derwin James, who
I
the
see
Niners
that.
passed on once upon a time to take Mike McGlinchey. I would not be surprised if Robert Saleh wants someone that big and fast as safety.
I wouldn't be shocked either, but they still have Malik and then Jair Brown. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't like as good last year, but like we are forgetting he did have some good runs. Like if we look 2 years ago when they were in the Super Bowl, like he did have some
He's
good
interesting.
stuff.
I don't know what they think of Jair Brown anymore. I know Steve Wilkes liked him very much and got a lot out of him, but now he's on his third D coordinator in 3 years. I wonder what the plan is.
If I'm them, I'm thinking safety is kind of like a question mark, and maybe we get somebody late, but I wouldn't think about doing first, and I would maybe rely on the fact that maybe Saleh can get something out of him too, kind of like how he did, how Wilkes did. But
plus, you just signed Pinnock, whereas at corner, you could get Will Johnson and feel like, man, you got three really good. If you have Will Johnson, Lenore, and Green, and now you're in a position. Now you have the type of defense that Saleh had in New York, where you can play man coverage if you want. You can play single high safety if you want. You can bring 5 to rush the quarterback if you want. You have those options. You don't just have to play rush 4 zone coverage because we don't really trust our DBs or whatever.
It just opens everything up. It opens everything up if you get them. Yeah. And that's why, so to me, like the way that I'm seeing this is there's like 3 rankings for that 11th pick. It's you go McMillan first if he's there. Then if he's not there, you go Mason Graham. And if he's not there, then you go Will Johnson. Like that's kind of how I'm viewing it. Maybe honestly, even Will Johnson above Mason Graham right now, because I am nervous about Mason Graham's like little tiny arms. Those little baby arms. They're kind of small. But he's like obviously so talented that it's like.
Let me ask you this though: would you consider trading down? This is a team that's trying to build through the draft. They already have 11 picks. If they want a defensive tackle, they could say, like maybe he's not the best player available at 11, but maybe he's at 20 and we could get another pick. Or are you feeling like, nah, man, this is your one opportunity to draft near the top 10. Could be for a while, like make the most of it.
I think it literally goes to exactly those 3 players. If all 3 are gone, then yeah, you trade back because it's just like not worth it at that point. I think that the gap of talent between
Jahdae Barron might be worth it.
I just don't know if it's as valuable as then trying to go later and getting more value out of this draft. Because at the end of the day, the whole point of this draft is going to be they need to hit on as many picks as possible. So I do like the idea of getting more picks to make sure that you really hit on a few of those. And I'm not as high on it. I just don't think he meshes into the defense as well as Will Johnson does. And I just don't think it's as worth it.
Here's why I think they're going defense for sure with the first round pick. Why the hell else would Robert Saleh come back to this team? They gutted his defense. They probably told him it's cool. We'll bring back Greenlaw. We're going to play some hardball with him first, but you know how we do. We'll bring him back. And then they didn't. Yeah. I'm thinking if I were him, I'm thinking you better give me not just the first pick, but the first 3 picks.
I mean, fair. I get that and all, but like, would you rather be in the field of you better give me the first 3 picks or you better give me all of the defensive picks that I want, like in the later rounds, because I feel like Saleh's the type of guy that would really like he's scouting it. He's really looking at it because he's aware that he's going to be coming into a team where he's going to get to make a lot of decisions. And if I'm him, if they're telling me, you know what, from rounds 3 to like 7, if there's a defensive guy you want, we'll take him. I might be like, fuck it. Like, that seems good. Like, that seems like a good idea. I'll do that. And let them go.
Says you got to hit on 5 picks in this draft to be competitive. 5.
I think it's more, but yeah.
5 instant contributors from one draft. See, I don't think they have enough picks for that. I think you could reasonably expect the first 4 picks to be instant contributors on this team that's not so dominant anymore. But anything after that would be gravy. Although the Niners have had success with their late round picks.
Hey, if they get one of these, there's like a guards that I have here too. If they can get one of these guards in the late rounds too, and like, that could be a new Dominic Pooney. Did you have any guards in particular you were liking?
No, I haven't really looked into it yet. What they're going to do, in my opinion, is take another guard in round 3 because that's where they got Pooney and it worked out. And they don't want to take offensive linemen any higher than they have to. They took Banks in round 2 and it didn't work out. So I think they're going to try to wait until round 3 again and take a guy who's like Pooney. Someone of the guy with like these fast 20-yard shuttles.
Yeah, that's fair. The good news for you, Grant, I have 3 names there too. I got names for you everywhere.
Give
You
me.
want the early round pick? I think you know him, Tyler Booker from Alabama.
Sure. My thing with Tyler Booker is I wonder if he'd be a player that like the Eagles are more into a guy who's more straight ahead than side to side. You know what I mean? Big and
Yeah, but
powerful, maybe not so agile.
but here's the
Good
thing that I
though.
like about him a lot, though. He can really pull for outside runs. So if they get some concepts where they're doing, a nice like 0-1 trap, they're pulling him. Maybe that's an even inside, or you could go outside. I think that could really work out well. He's
He'd be
vicious
better
too.
than Banks.
If he gets his hands on you too, you're done. Like it's
Yeah.
over. You're
I saw
done
him
at
in
that
person
point.
at the combine. He's like 325 pounds of like 8% body fat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's huge. Like he could be an absolute weapon. Then you got Gray Zabel from North Dakota State. He looks really good too. He's super versatile. He can play both guard spots, but obviously Pooney's locked up right guard, so you just need him at left.
He played quarterback in middle school.
Whoa, didn't know that. That's
He's a good athlete.
really cool. And the thing I love about him too, he can literally play anywhere. Like you can also
Yeah.
put him on tackles, and he'll make
Him
it
at center.
work. He had, you know how many sacks he had in 2024?
How many give up? None.
One single
One.
one. That's it. Just one.
Okay.
That was it. I'll take that.
right.
That's great numbers.
Okay.
And then my sleeper pick, the sleeper pick of them all, is Tyler Cooper from Minnesota. He is a scheme fit entirely because he just loves outside runs. That's why I like him. He fits this offense to a T. His pass blocking is honestly not that bad either, but the outside runs I feel like is just Shanahan foaming at the mouth. Like, I'm red. Give me him, please.
All right. Well, I'm thinking guard round 3, defensive tackle probably round 2 and 3. God knows what in round 1. Probably wide receiver. And then quarterback in round 4. That's the way it's probably going to go down. Anyway.
Ooh, a quarterback round 4 would be so interesting. Do they still have Dobbs on the books? Is he still under contract? No. Okay. I was looking at the Niners roster page and he was on it still.
I wonder if he's on a team.
I don't know. You got me curious. Let's see here. Joshua Dobbs. Oh, yeah, he's on New England. I mean, that's just sad. That's
wow. Depressing. Drake May better watch his back.
You better watch out. The pastronaut.
Make sure you go check out me and Connor on www.si.com/NFL/49ers. Check us out. Connor, great show.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. This was super fun. Thanks, chat. Yeah. Chat's always funny. Appreciate that.
Yeah, follow Connor on Twitter too.
The @'s right there. It's super
and
simple.
Pinterest.